Welcome to the first episode of That Just Happened. This is the show where I do the curation so that you don't have to, and I tell you what's worth a watch and what probably you should steer clear from, and honestly, just have conversations about the things that I'm trying to catch up on, to be 100% honest. So, this week on That Just Happened, we're talking first about Night Court. That's right, Night Court reboot series. As of filming this, but probably as you're watching this, the third episode will be live, though I have yet to see it because, I'm a day in the past from where you are, so thanks for rubbing it in, jerk. But so far, so good, man. I really appreciate this Night Court reboot. It's a lot of fun. Melissa Rauch as the new Judge Stone honestly works. I didn't know if she could get out of the Bernadette hole, I guess, that she had dug for herself, but she seems to be doing all right for herself. The fact that Lara Kett is there to kind of help pass the torch, and also he's an executive producer, so he's probably going to stick around for some time. He was one of the best parts of the original series, so the fact that he's the one that's still here really, really does a lot for this series. I'm digging it. Hopefully it keeps this momentum and gets better. It's not great just yet, but it's fun. So I'm digging it. The next one that we're talking about, I just finished 2 nights ago, is That 90s Show. If you are a fan, even a fairly casual fan of That 70s Show, then you'll dig it. This is definitely a show that you can put on as background noise. It's not gonna take up a lot of brain power, but it's still, again, it's another one of those that's just a lot of fun. If you appreciated the original series, then you will have an appreciation for this one. It doesn't break any new ground necessarily, though I did appreciate that the one gay kid, the gay character, like it wasn't a big deal. Like he didn't have this big coming out. Well, I guess he kind of did have a coming out moment, but it was subversive, and I like subversive comedy. So yeah, that really went a long way of not like trying to be overly socially political, but still, doing quality stories that still check those social political boxes. I don't mind that, as long as it's not the purpose of the whole existence of the show. That's not the case here. It's just a side story that is kind of actually rather hilarious because everybody already knows dude's gay. But whatever, it's fun. Again, if you dug the original series, you really like what they've done here. And they have a fair amount of cameos from the original cast, which is another kind of great little way to pass the torch. Seems to work fairly well. There are definitely better ways to have done it, but it is what it is. Then let's talk real quick about probably what is very likely going to be the next big pop culture titan as far as HBO shows are concerned, and that is The Last of Us. Man, I watched the first episode. I've never played the game. I'm an Xbox player. Last of Us is not an Xbox game, so I've never played it. I'm vaguely familiar with the story, but that's about it. Watching the first episode was awesome. Like, filled me with awe kind of awesome. Not like, yo, bro, but just the scope of how everything turns and watching the turn happen is pretty impressive. And while I do understand that there have been a number of changes, a number of deviations from the story in the game, one of the original game creators is part of the production team. So he's there still to make sure they're honoring that source material. And from what I can see, there's more honor than dishonor to that source material. So working super well. Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal are... The Ramsey, I think still has a little bit of growing to do. She doesn't have quite the same level of dialogue, script writing that she had when she was in Game of Thrones as the Lady Mormont, but I can see how she will eventually become a cultural phenomenon in and of herself. So they're already modding the original game to put her likeness in it on PC as we speak. So it's a thing. It's on the internet. Go check it out. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, Definitely digging this. This is something that is worth your time. Go check it out. Next, we're talking The Menu just happened. Actually, about a month ago almost is when it hit HBO Max. I'm riding the fence on this one. So, as somebody who works in the food industry, like there is a lot that I can identify with to a very minimal degree. I mean, there's obviously the pretensive, artsy side of the food industry that they're portraying rather well. But beyond that, I don't know. It's difficult. It was an interesting watch. I can't say that I'm not going to watch it again, but I'm also not going to go out of my way to watch it again. Anya Taylor-Joy is not her strongest role, though. I mean, she kind of carries most of the movie because she's the source of intrigue. Like, you're trying to figure out her story because everybody else's story is pretty obvious by about halfway through the movie, and she's still kind of a bit of an enigma. So, yeah, very interesting, but again, riding the fence as to quality. So maybe check this one out at your own risk. Next, we're talking about the 1923 Yellowstone prequel series that stars Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford. Helen Mirren, Harrison Ford, great on screen. There's no denying the capabilities of these two actors. This is it's doing two things at the same time, and it's very strange, but I'm liking it either way. So the two things it's doing are, at once, it's saying that it's showing how you can do a prequel series to the mainline Yellowstone series. Like it's continuing that prequel story that started with the, 1883, I believe. And there's actually going to be another 1883 series that happens next year, I believe. It's a side story from the 1883 originally. But that kind of leads to the second thing that this 1923 series is doing, and that is making you question, is this necessary? Is this too much, too fast, too soon? We might be straddling that line of overload. So if you feel like you just got a handle on what's going on Yellowstone, and you maybe haven't watched all of 1883 just yet, maybe hold off on the 1923 stuff, because it's all very heavy, very quick. So that's a lot of heaviness to deal with what's going on in Yellowstone, deal with what's going on in 1883, and then on top of it, you've got this new series. Like, that's a lot of really emotionally heavy stuff. I am liking it because we kind of, in my house, we digest entire series at a time. So I'm done with everything else up to this point. So we can get to 1923, but if you are not, I would say finish the rest of the Yellowstone oeuvre, if you will, before you get into this one. Because it's worth the time, but man, you really have to get through some heavy, heavy stuff. Then we got Yellowstone, the current season is on hold right now. We won't be seeing the second half of season 5 until summer, I believe, but no specific date has been given just yet. There is a lot of ground to cover here, guys. This is one that I know people are going to have some opinions about. So let's have the conversation about what's going on currently in Yellowstone. Is the Dutton family going to be able to survive an impeachment trial? Something else I learned as getting ready to do the filming tonight is this is not the final season like was originally reported. At some point they said that they were going to end with season 5, or that when season 5 started its production, they were saying this is going to be the final season. That's not the case. So really, that kind of leaves the end where they're going to end this season in a weird position right now, because like there's a lot on the table, and I don't think they can get through it all by the end of a season. So that leaves open the question, what are they going to leave for season 6, and what are they going to try and resolve here in season 5? It's very, very intriguing, I'm not going to lie. Then Violent Night, again, we just got out of the Christmas season, so this is something that happened while we were in the off season. Violent Night, the Santa Claus meets Die Hard story that is, I believe, on HBO Max now as well. Man, HBO Max is kind of knocking it out right now, aren't they? This was, so here's the best way I can figure to sum up whether or not you might like Violent Night. If you are a fan of gory horror movies and action movies, then Violent Night is probably right up your alley, because a lot of the action sequences get rather bloody in like some of the most like that could have happened in a slasher movie kind of ways. And also it's a really unique take on the mythology of Santa Claus, which I think kind of has to be seen to believe. But again, only if you're cool with the other like quasi horror action elements that are involved here. Because like, honestly, there are some kills in this movie that are like, I mean, that could have been in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, or a Friday the 13th movie, or something along those, Halloween movie even. So yeah, it's got all those elements, and then just a little bit of Home Alone thrown in there just for good measure. So yeah, very interesting situation with the Violent Night. Next is The Peripheral. This series, man, William Gibson writes amazing stories, and I cannot believe that it took this long for us to finally get a mostly faithful adaptation of one of those stories in a live action setting. Johnny Mnemonic was the first attempt, Alien 3 was the second attempt, and then I don't think there's really anything in between Alien 3 and The Peripheral. Alien 3, they didn't use his script at all. Johnny Mnemonic, they took his script way too seriously, added some stuff that shouldn't have been there, but that was production, studio things that really got in the way. So this is the first time we're getting mostly unadulterated William Gibson in live action form, and it's turning out fantastic. I cannot wait to finish this. I have 2 episodes left, and I really hope they pick this one up for season 2. I feel like I might have heard somewhere that they did pick it up, but don't quote me on that, because this isn't the news show. We're just having a conversation here. I absolutely think if you are into science fiction, if you are into cyberpunk, William Gibson is one of the very first, if not arguably the very first cyberpunk author. Then this is absolutely a series you must watch. Cyberpunk is more than just a video game. It is an actual subgenre of science fiction, and William Gibson is one of the godfathers of it. And where he's at now with his speculative fiction, which is borderline science fiction, cyberpunk, kind of, sort of. It's great. It's a lot of fun. You absolutely should be watching Peripheral. One we've been glowing about pretty much everything up to this point. One that I'm going to say steer very clear from is White Noise. Noah Baumbach is the director of White Noise. Adam Driver is the lead. You also have a number of other actors throughout the course of this that kind of have cameo bit parts, if you will. But Adam Driver is the father of this family that around which the story happens, and it's just, it's almost a good movie. It's almost worth your time. The thing about it, though, and this is the comparison that I've been making, talking to people about it, is so when people complain about, say, an Aaron Sorkin script, or when people complain about what's her name that did the Gilmore Girls and she does Marvelous Miss Maisel now, when they complain about that dialogue, generally what they're complaining about is the idealized nature of that dialogue. People in real life aren't that quick and witty. People in real life, aren't so snappy with the comebacks. People in real life don't have those $5 vocabularies. It's just not. It's this idealized, heightened kind of dialogue that they write. This movie, White Noise by Noah Baumbach, is is attempting to do idealized dialogue, but also at the same time keep it grounded. And that's when it becomes difficult to listen to, borderline annoying in a number of scenes throughout the course of this movie, and just is not accomplished well. The idea is there, but the execution is poor. And I honestly almost couldn't even finish the damn movie. So yeah, I would say maybe don't, unless you're a really big Noah Baumbach or Adam Driver fan, maybe steer clear. Or Don Cheadle, that was the name I was trying to think of a minute ago. Don Cheadle's also in this, but he has a little bit part. Then we're talking our final piece, our final of the initial that just happened, is Weird, the Al Yankovic story. This is... it's our movie recommendation over on the news show this week. The Weird series, or the Weird movie, is hilarious. This is absolute proof that Weird Al does not take himself overly seriously, and either should you. You should just enjoy all of the amazing comedy. And Daniel Radcliffe is in on the joke, and I love that fact. So yeah, if you're into some really goofy, schlocky, slapstick, ridiculousness, and you need a good hearty belly laugh, Weird is the movie to do it. That brings us to the end of this first That Just Happened. I know it's slightly awkward, but hey, we're here to start a conversation. I want to see what the community is getting into, and maybe we can go back and forth with your recommendations to me, and then my recommendations to you, so on and so forth. So that is the idea behind this show. Thank you for sticking around, nerds. I love to see your faces here. Let's have more conversations, shall we? But we can't do that now, so we gotta go. And before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.